So as if it wasn't obvious already that we're living in a complete la-la fantasy land, I woke up this morning to the big news that Osama bin Laden has been killed. You know, the news that we've all been expecting really, because it was bound to come at some point. But it's always a bit of a surprise when you get news like that. You're never quite ready for it. But I did start chuckling when I read the report of bin Laden's death, because as most of us know, there is lots of credible evidence that bin Laden has been dead for many years. In fact, the first reports date back to December 2001 of bin Laden's death. And there were various, credible people who believe that he has been dead for years. I recommend reading David Ray Griffin's book, Osama bin Laden, Dead or Alive, which really goes into depth about this. And he goes over all the evidence and shows how it's quite likely that the audio tapes and the footage of bin Laden that's been released since his death are in fact fakes. So I had a chuckle about bin Laden being killed, and then I had even more of a chuckle about an as yet unconfirmed report from a US official that bin Laden's body has actually been buried at sea within 24 hours of his death. I mean, can you imagine anything more absurd than this story? That they killed bin Laden and then immediately buried him at sea. I mean, if this doesn't wake people up, then I'm not really sure that anything is going to. I mean, you have to question why the US government would do this, and it's either that they think that people are just so stupid that they're not going to question bin Laden being buried at sea within 24 hours of his apparent death, or they simply don't even care anymore if people do think there's something suspicious about this. Are the US government and the intelligence services so confident of their grasp on power and so contemptuous of the masses that they can simply, announce something completely outrageous like the fact that the body has been disposed of? They can be so confident as to do that without, anything really happening, because the people have no power anymore. It reminds me of a video that I put out not too long ago where I mentioned the idea that, maybe the 9/11 attacks had been planned to be exposed, that the people behind the attacks had known that at some point information would come out about the 9/11 attacks that would reveal it to be an inside job. Perhaps they planned that into the plot because they know that they have such a grasp on power that nothing would actually happen, even if it was revealed that 9/11 was an inside job. The people ultimately behind it would get away scot-free with that. And is that what's happening here? The authorities are just so confident that the sheeple, which is a phrase I don't like to use, are just so dumbed down and so ready to believe anything, or even worse, they have suspicions but there's nothing they can do about it. So yeah, it's just completely insane. And I mean, it's going to be very interesting in the next few days to see what happens, to see whether this is confirmed as the official line, which I actually hope it is, because I think there is some hope we could wake some people up with this blatantly outrageous story. Or are they going to produce, some fake footage or something? There's already been a fake photo put out there. I don't believe it's an official photo. I think it was flashed up on Pakistani news, and that's already been quickly debunked as a total fraud. So let's see what, they can come up with. You think the Pentagon, with all of their technology, would be able to create some kind of fake video or fake photo or something? So interesting times, guys. But yeah, we're just totally living in la la land. I mean, I was looking through the broadsheets in the UK this morning, and all of the mainstream media have faithfully relayed the official line that bin Laden's been killed, that he's been buried at sea, with very little questioning there about any of this information. The people in the comments were all saying, oh, well, they were playing along with it, they believed that this was what had happened, and it's just completely crazy. We're living in a completely unreal world, and us who look into this alternative information, who are often dismissed as conspiracy theorists, and who are often accused of living in an unreality, I would say it's everybody else and the mainstream media who are living in a fantasy world. Because for this story to come out, and then for the mainstream media not to even question it, and for people to accept that Bin Laden's body has been disposed of, it is just completely insane, to be quite honest. Alright guys, thanks a lot.